Guys, welcome back to another video here. It is week 11 in the NFL. We got a bunch of games to go over. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you watching. My name is West Coast. I stream on Twitch. I do a bunch of random sports, card opening, card packs, stuff like that stuff on YouTube. I appreciate if y'all go check that out as well. But this video here is week 11 of the NFL season. We're getting down to the last third of the year. Excited for it. Let's get started. To lead us off, we are going to start with my team. They're first on the list. I didn't put them there on purpose. The Seattle Seahawks at home to host the Arizona Cardinals. Seattle, of course, coming off a really bad loss against the Rams. More turnovers from Russell Wilson. 10 picks on the year. Los Angeles entirely took away the passing game of the Seahawks with Chris Carson still out. An absolute disaster. I'm shocked that the Hawks kept it to 23 points. Just brutal. Rams did a great job. Seattle could not move the ball. Terrible. Just couldn't do anything about it. Arizona, of course, coming off the miraculous Hail Mary win from Kyler Murray to D-Hop to screw me. I'm going to spit. Good. That's what they get. With a bad beat, I had the under, the Hail Mary, hit the over. Brutal. Thought I had it. Great catch from D-Hop nonetheless, but man, bad beats are terrible. Seattle, 3 losses this year. In those 3 losses, Wilson has turned the ball over 10 times in those 3 losses. Like I've been saying in past videos, if Russell Wilson cannot keep the ball on his side, on his team, if he turns the ball over, Seattle will lose the game. It is pretty simple. The last 5 games for Arizona, they have scored at least 30 points, regardless of who you're playing, how bad the defense is. You're an NFL team going up against another NFL team, scoring 30-plus points in 5 straight games. Very impressive stuff. The spread's 3.5 for the Seahawks, which is a little weird, especially with no fans. I mean, I know at home with a full stadium, maybe, but man, the way these two teams are playing, I don't see the Seahawks being a 3.5 point favorite here. The over-under is 57.5. Even at being at home, I just don't trust the Seattle team right now. Even the over is a bit high and scary for me. Early in the year, yes, but the way our offense has been playing, I just don't know if we can put up 30-35 consistently like we did, especially the way we've been turning the ball over 3 of the past 4 games. At some point, Russ has to figure it out. He's got to get back to Russ beginning of the year. 71 between these two a month back when they played primetime as well. 37-34, I believe, is what it was. But man, I'm doubling down on the way I feel, taking bias out of the way. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is a pick that comes back to bite me. But I just don't see Seattle sticking with this one. I don't trust our offense right now. I definitely sure as hell don't trust our defense right now. Arizona's playing well. Ton of confidence. I am taking the Cardinals plus 3.5 here. If they don't win, they don't win. I think the game stays close. So Cardinals plus 3.5. All right, next on the docket, we head to New Orleans, where the New Orleans Saints, without Drew Brees, will host the Atlanta Falcons in a big NFC South matchup. Atlanta coming off a bye after 2 straight wins, looking to stay on track. The Saints, man, they're staying at home after last week, but without Drew Brees, it's going to be tough. I think we're going to see a mix of Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill together. Taysom Hill and the Wildcat, but we got to put a lot of trust in the Jameis Winston to score points for this team. Regardless of the Falcons winning 2 straight, I still don't really trust this team heavily. The only big difference recently is Julio Jones is getting back to being Julio Jones. The last 4 games, 28 catches, 25 yards in the past 4 games. That's huge for Atlanta. Yes, they had Calvin Ridley early in the year, but to be effective, to be efficient, you got to have your best receiver making plays, moving the ball down the field, and that's Julio Jones. I'm curious to see how New Orleans plays without Drew Brees. We haven't seen that a lot over the course of his career. Brees has only missed 6 games in his entire Saints career due to actual injury. He's been benched a couple times in Week 17 just because of their record. But injury-wise, he's only missed 6 games, and 5 of those were last year with his hand injury. So, yes, he's getting older, but the guy just doesn't miss games. He does have multiple rib fractures, a collapsed lung. They're saying he's only out a couple weeks. But man, trying to have this team with Jameis Winston is going to be tough. I'm curious to see how this works. It's 4.5 points for the Saints, and without Drew Brees, I think that's high. Actually, in theory, it's against the Falcons team, who's not consistently great the whole year. Maybe 4.5 is a good number. With Drew Brees, it probably would have been 8.5, 9.5. So I guess that makes sense. The over-under is 51. This is a no-touch game for me this week. I'm not going to touch this game. I don't know how Jameis Winston's going to play. I don't know how they're going to implement Winston and Hill together. It wouldn't make sense in this video if I escaped the game, so I'm not going to. I'm going to pick something. But I personally, for my money, my bankroll, I don't like this game. No idea what the Saints are going to look like, and I don't like betting unknowns. It's a divisional game. Backup quarterback. The Falcons have won 2 straight. Because of that reason, I'm going to take Atlanta plus 4.5 just for the sake of the video. Not going to touch them in real life. But for the sake of the video, backup QB, divisional game, I'm going to take the Falcons plus 4.5. For the next game, we head to the nation's capital where the Cincinnati Bengals will take on the Washington football team. The Bengals last week ran into the actual Pittsburgh Steelers team, the team that we know they can be, great on offense, stellar on defense, completely shut down Joe Burrow in that running game. And the running game's not great in theory in Cincinnati, but completely shut down the offense. Joe Burrow was held to his worst completion percentage of his young career, and it wasn't even close, like 52%. And I don't think he's ever been under 60 so far this year. Outside of a few big plays that Cincinnati had, they were completely shut down on offense. On Washington's side, they kept it close, but they kept their trend going of not being able to win a game outside of that pitiful NFC East division. All things considered, though, with the injury, Alex Smith coming back with everything he's gone through, he looked pretty good. He did need a big fourth quarter comeback, even made the game close, but he looked way better than I thought he would, which is great news for Washington. Don't think it's going to really matter this year, but at least it's going to keep them somewhat competitive in games they should be somewhat competitive in. Speaking earlier with the running game, Cincinnati has not ran the ball very well. They must use Joe Burrow to play efficiently, especially on the road. Burrow is the key to that team. Gio Bernard and the rest of that running game, it's just not there for the Bengals this year. Everything comes down to Joe Burrow for this Bengals team. Same thing for Washington, completely on the opposite side. If they want to keep this game close, they have to keep Joe Burrow in check, just like Pittsburgh did. Pittsburgh, Washington, I get it. 2 complete ends of the spectrum, but that's what they're going to have to do to keep this game close. Keep Joe Burrow, keep him out of the end zone, keep him off balance. A good mixture of blitz, zone, man, keep him guessing as a rookie. I don't think it's going to matter. Washington is a favorite here. 1.5 points, which is baffling to me. I think Vegas is overstepping a little bit with Cincinnati's big loss last week. Even at home, I think Washington should be the underdog here. I think Cincinnati's a better team. Washington needed a big fourth quarter comeback, even make the game close last week. Just don't see it for Washington. I think this is a pretty big value game here. With Cincinnati plus 1.5, that's who I'm taking. I think Burrow dominates this game. Even though Washington's pass defense is good, I think Joe Burrow's better. Plus 1.5, I'm taking the Bengals here. To Carolina we go this time, where Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions will travel to Charlotte, I believe. I could be wrong. Let's just say Carolina, just to be safe. Carolina to face the Carolina Panthers. Last week, Detroit steered clear of the jokes, escaped with a Matt Prater field goal to beat Washington 30-27. That would have been embarrassing to lose to that team, considering they have not won outside the NFC East like we just talked about. Carolina, on the other hand, ran into a pissed-off Tom Brady and absolutely got annihilated in the second half. First half was close, but Tom Brady and company took over. Carolina took a loss 46-23 in that one. For this game, Matthew Stafford must outplay Teddy Bridgewater. As normal, Stafford runs this Detroit Lions team. As he goes, Detroit goes. They don't run the ball very well, so Detroit's success hinges on the play of Matthew Stafford. And, you know, on the other side, Carolina will not have Christian McCaffrey again. He's not officially out. People are saying he's most likely going to be out again for this week. So they've had it for, what, two weeks this year. It's absolutely brutal. Carolina is not good on the ground without him. They're 22nd in the NFL this year. You take out McCaffrey for those 2 games, guarantee they're even lower. So brutal for Carolina. The over-under, there is no over-under for this game as of this recording. The Panthers are a 1.5 point favorite. This is another game where it's tough. I don't think the over-under is placed yet because of Christian McCaffrey's unofficial status. So I don't think they're setting it quite yet. Depending on what the over-under is, that's probably what I'm going to take in this game. I don't like the 1.5 for Carolina. On the other end, I don't like the plus 1.5 for Detroit on the road. No clue what's going to happen in this game. I would need the over-under to make a pick for this. Because there's not one, this is a game that I will hold on to. Don't feel comfortable making the points for either of the teams, so I need to see what the total is before I make a pick on this game. All right, now we go to the Patriots off a big win. They will take their team on the road to Houston to face the Texans. The Patriots, of course, coming off a huge upset win against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. They held Baltimore to 115 yards on the ground. 55 of that was Lamar. So take out Lamar, who's always a threat. And the Patriots only gave up 60 yards on the ground to the rest of the Ravens. Huge win for them. Houston, ugly, close, but a complete weather-effed game in Cleveland again. Cleveland continues to struggle with these kind of games in the weather. Houston lost that game, but they were completely just terrible on offense until they scored in the fourth. No weather, I think Cleveland absolutely dominates that game. So, yes, the game was 10-7, but Houston did not look good in that game. As bad as New England has looked, they still have Bill Belichick. They have playmakers on both sides of the ball. That's what got them the win last week. Belichick is, love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He's a mastermind. He's a genius. I don't like the Patriots, but you can't get away from the fact that he's one of the best coaches of all time and super smart and knows how to put together a game plan to try and win most games. Houston 0-7 against any other team in the NFL whose name does not begin with Jacksonville. They can't win if they're not Jacksonville. They're the Washington football team of the NFC East. Texans struggle. They're competitive in some of these games, but they just can't win unless they're playing in or against Jacksonville. The spread's 2.5 for the Patriots, and the over-under is 48. Maybe Vegas is thinking that this is a letdown spot for the Patriots after a big win at home. I mean, they are on the road this week, but man, 2.5 points, I think it's just too low. If they were at home, it'd probably be more like 5.5, but man, beating the Ravens, Houston can't win a game. Vegas has to think that this is a letdown spot. It just has to. For me, I think this is an easy pick. Probably going to come back to bite me because Vegas most of the time knows better than most, but man, I'd put money on New England to win by at least a field goal against the 2-7 Texans, who is also 2-7 against the spread this year. They don't win the games. They don't beat the spread. They're just not that good of a team. 2.5 is baffling to me, but I'm going to take it on the road. Patriots 2.5. Now we head to Cleveland, where the Cleveland Browns will welcome in the visiting Philadelphia Eagles. Philly, who did what they should have done last week, lose to make the NFC East even more ridiculous and even crazier. A team with 4 wins winning that division, maybe 5, it's going to happen. It's brutal, but man, I'm here for it. Browns on the other side, again, in another weather game, struggled offensively. Got that run at the very end where Nick Chubb ran out of bounds to not cover the spread. Say what you want. People are divided. It was smart. It wasn't smart. I don't give a damn. You lost me the spread, Nick Chubb. You lost me the spread. Okay. Anyways, well, that was weird. The Eagles last week looked horrible on offense. Looked completely lost, as they have most of the year, until they kind of flip that switch. They're 30th in turnovers. They are handing the ball out like candy on Halloween. It's not good. Cleveland, they've struggled offensively recently, but you got to understand where that's coming from. 3 of their last 4 games, they've scored 10 points or less. 2 of those are terrible weather, rainy, blustery conditions, and the other game was Pittsburgh. So they're not as bad offensively as what they've shown lately. They've just been struggling against the elements, and then probably the best team of football. Cleveland's 4-1 at home. The spread's 3 for Cleveland. 45.5 is the over-under, but the spread's only 3. This is another game that the weather is going to play a part. It's supposed to rain all game long, 90% for the entirety of the game. Don't know how heavy the rain's supposed to be, but it's forecasted, at least today on Wednesday, for it to be rainy all game long. Cleveland cannot catch a break. They are 4-1 at home, but Philly's not a team that I can trust at all under any circumstances. Even though the game is in the rain, I like the 3.5 for Cleveland at home. However, because of the potential forecast, I will take the under, expecting both teams to run the ball, not be able to kick, not be able to pass very well in the rain. If close to game time that forecast clears up, I'm probably going to switch that to the 3 for the Browns. But as of right now, the forecast looks bad. I'm taking the under 45.5. All right, now the 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers will head to Jacksonville to take on the pitiful Jaguars. Pittsburgh looked like an undefeated team last week, finally, demolishing a Bengals team. Big Ben threw for 4 touchdowns, completely shut down the Bengals offense. Jacksonville, on the other hand, gave Green Bay all it could take last week. Jake Luton, he's not played lights out, but he's done enough as a rookie quarterback to keep his team in the game, not make a bunch of mistakes, which for a rookie quarterback in the 6th round is all you could ask for at this point. Steelers are still having trouble running the ball. They've not looked good the past couple weeks. James Conner has been held pretty tightly the past couple weeks. The bright side for Pittsburgh, they've only turned the ball over 8 times all year long. There's 5 quarterbacks in the NFL alone that have more interceptions by themselves than Pittsburgh has turnovers all year long. And only one starting quarterback has been, like, all 9 games, all 8 games, all their team's games. Only one quarterback has been sacked less times than Big Ben. They're keeping Big Ben upright. He's taking care of the ball. They're 9-0. That defense, perfect formula. Jake Luton should get the nod again this weekend. Gardner Minshew is not ready. To be honest, when Minshew comes back, I don't even know if he'll be the quarterback. I would imagine so. But with Jacksonville 2-7 right now, you never know what's going to happen. I think this is going to be a much different game than the last 2 for Jake Luton against the Texans and Packers. Yes, he played well. Yes, he played the game close. But Pittsburgh leads the NFL in sacks. Jacksonville is going to have the game plan to get that ball out of Jake Luton's hands as fast as possible and efficiently, because that Steelers defense is coming, and they're coming hard. The spread is 10 as of now for Pittsburgh, and the over-under 47.5. Double-digit spreads, especially on the road, are the absolute death of me. This season, I kind of looked back over the first 10 weeks of the NFL season. Double-digit spreads home or away are right about 500. They're about half and half. Most of the covers, though, are by home teams. Double-digit road favorites tend to not do well historically. I'm not disputing who is the better team here. Pittsburgh is clearly the better team, but they were the better team against Dallas, too. Big road favorites. I don't like them. I don't trust them. I'm picking Jacksonville plus 10. Don't like double-digit road favorites. 9-point win. There it is. Next on the schedule, we head to Baltimore, where the Baltimore Ravens will welcome in the Tennessee Titans to... I forgot the name of their stadium. Rip. Okay. to Baltimore. They're going to welcome them to Baltimore. Last week, Tennessee played a good first half against the Colts, struggled in the second half, dropped that game completely. Nothing going on for them in the second half. Baltimore, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Patriots shut down Baltimore. Baltimore could not find its offensive game plan, couldn't move the ball effectively, efficiently, and lost a game in Foxborough for a huge, huge upset. Derrick Henry for Tennessee, after a blistering 5-game pace where I think he was in the end zone for 6 times, has not found pay dirt in the last 2 games, although he did rush for 100 yards last week. Has not scored in 2 weeks, so that's big for Tennessee. Baltimore, for them, they must get back to punishing teams on the ground. Lamar, we talk about it every week. He's not a 30 completion a game quarterback. He's not going to throw for 300 yards. They have to run the ball to open up that passing game and open up Lamar to run with his feet. They're not successful if they don't run the ball. Yes, they've ran for 112 yards in the past 2 games, 110 and 115, but they are more than that. They need 150, they need 160. They need to get teams to punish that box, load that box up, so Lamar can take his shots and get outside the pocket and run with his feet. The spread's 6.5, a little bit less than a touchdown for Baltimore. 48.5 is the over/under. I really don't know what to do with this one. I don't know if I can trust Baltimore to cover this. Yes, it's at home. 6.5 against a good Tennessee team seems a bit too big for me. Again, just like we talked about with Vegas maybe overplaying a win. Maybe they underplay a loss. With Baltimore losing last week, maybe they come back on fire. It's possible, absolutely potential. I think Baltimore gets back to their ways on the ground. I also think Tennessee pounds the ball with Derrick Henry. I think this is a rush game. Everybody runs the ball, pounds it. Old school football, O-line versus D-line, fight in the trenches. That's what I think what happens. The over-under being 48.5 in a game like that, I think that's high. I think with as much as both teams are going to run the ball, I think the clock's going to bleed away. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. So instead of taking 6.5 for Baltimore, I think Tennessee can cover. I'm going to take the under here, 48.5, and think and hope both teams pound the ball on the ground. Next on the schedule is the Miami Dolphins and Tua traveling up northwest to the Mile High Stadium to take on the Broncos. Miami has won its last 5 games. Tua is 3-0 after beating the Chargers last week at home. They're doing what they need to do. Broncos struggled big time in the second half against Las Vegas last week. Las Vegas turned on the afterburners in the second half. And like I said last week, no Drew Lock magic in the fourth quarter for the Broncos. It's exactly what happened. Miami is a very interesting team. They're 6-3 on paper. They should not be 6-3. They're 29th in total offense, 19th in total defense. Numbers can always be deceiving. I get it, but you look at those stats and they should not be 6-3. However, they stay in those games. They're 9th in takeaways and they're 5th in points allowed. Bend but don't break mentality. Big defensive plays. That's what Miami is doing, and it's working for them. Quarterbacks for the Denver Broncos, they've thrown 16 interceptions this year. Drew Lock threw 4 last week to Las Vegas, and they are dead last in giveaways. They have to hold on to the ball for this game to even stay close. Miami is a much better team. It is at home for Denver, but if Denver turns the ball over at all, this game could get away from them early and get away from them quickly. 3.5 points for the Dolphins. 45.5 is the under. I think 3.5 is a travesty for the way the Dolphins are playing. Numbers aside, paper aside, they're playing better than that. Denver is not. 3.5 points, I think, is way low for this. I mean, again, Denver's at home. If it was the other way, it'd probably be 6.5, 7.5, which I get that. But man, Denver turns the ball over way too much. I think Miami dominates this game from the very get-go. Dominates it and covers it, the 3.5, really easily. For the next game, the 0-9 New York Jets will head across the country to SoFi Stadium to take on Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Jets, of course, coming off a bye last week, where my sources say they actually lost that game against bye, 28-7. Brutal. They're 0-10 somehow. I don't know how, but let's just take it. The Chargers gave us yet another one-possession game, and yet another over. Say what you want, but this Chargers team is very close to being a very good team. Curious to see what happens in the offseason with this team. But with Herbert, they have their quarterback. They have a good offense. They've got to fix that defense, and this team is very, very close to competing in that division. For the Jets, Joe Flacco should be the quarterback again. Sam Darnold is not quite ready to be back. He should be back with a little bit of confidence, too. Throwing 3 touchdowns in that game before the bye week in New England. Yes, they lost, but confidence is confidence, especially for a veteran like Joe Flacco. Just as I said, the Chargers are not a 2-7 team. They're much, much better. I said it last week. I said it the week before. They're better than their record. They're just not winning games. They're 4th in total offense, and they're really only struggling because their defense can't make plays when they need to. It's forcing the rookie quarterback, Justin Herbert, to always play from behind, make that final drive, which he's done sometimes. But you can't expect that to happen every single week with a rookie quarterback. The Chargers need to figure out their defense, and this team could easily be a 6-3 team. It's 8.5 points for the Chargers. 47 is the over/under. Although the Jets are 0-9, they are 4-5 against the over. The pattern continues with the Chargers being 6-0 in their last 6 games versus the over. Their offense puts up points. Their defense can't stop. Flacco, I'm hopeful, and I think Flacco's last game is going to carry over a little bit. I'm not expecting a 3-touchdown, 270-yard game against the Chargers, but maybe. The over/under is only 47, although it's the Jets. I think the over carries here. The minus 8.5, I just don't trust the Chargers here. Yes, they're at home, but 8.5 is a lot for a team that only has 2 wins. We talked about they're a better team than that, but man, 8.5 is tough. I'll take the over here, expecting the Jets to put up some points a little bit. Chargers will do the rest, 47 the over. All right, 4 games to go left on the schedule for this week. This game will take the Dallas Cowboys and most likely the return of Andy Dalton on the road to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Dallas just barely missed the NFL record of going 0-9 against the spread. They played really well against Pittsburgh the whole time. Pittsburgh came back in the 4th and had to win that game a few weeks ago. Minnesota just played on Monday night a couple days ago. Boring game on both sides. Take out that the second half return touchdown by Cordell Patterson. What a boring game that was. Like I said, I and a lot of other people expect Andy Dalton to be back this Sunday after a vicious hit knocked him out on October 25th. I still believe Dalton is the best backup in the NFL, and Dallas will need him badly in order to compete the rest of the season. Everything's still on the plate in that division. Dallas is not out of it. So although their record is indicative that they're terrible, everybody is still in play for a home playoff game in that division. They need Dalton to step up badly. They got to get a couple wins that they're not supposed to get to propel them to the top of that division. Minnesota stuck to their game plan on Monday. However, boring. They rushed Dalvin Cook 30 times. I don't think he crossed 90 yards, but they still shoved the ball down the Bears' defense. But the Chicago defense did not let him break free. Most of those yards came in the second half. Minnesota, on the other hand, they held the Bears to a pathetic 149 yards of total offense. I was trying to look up kind of what the record is and how often a number like that hits on the offensive, but I couldn't find anything for some reason. But 149 yards is terrible, and it's practically unheard of in the game nowadays. I put more of that on how bad Chicago's offense is compared to how good Minnesota's defense is. But still, Minnesota defense can take a pat on the back for that, but man, Chicago's offense is bad. The spread's 7.5 for the Vikings at home. The over-under is 48. Dallas is 31st in the NFL in yards allowed, and at home, Dalvin should again get the rock 25 to 30 times. After a bye week, luckily, Dallas should be pretty healthy on both sides of the ball. We talked about Dalton, but the defense side of the ball, they should get some guys back as well. They should be healthy. They were banged up the past couple weeks before their bye, so that should be good for them. I'm tempted with the over here with Dalton coming back at 48, but I think Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson will just be too much. I think 7.5 is a bit high, but at home, I think Minnesota's finally starting to play the way they were supposed to play at the beginning of the year. So it's a bit high, but I trust the Vikings here. I wish it was 6.5, not 7.5, but I'm going to take it anyways. Vikings, 7.5. The last non-prime time game of the week will be the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Green Bay Packers. Big game here. Last week, the Packers embarrassingly struggled against a really bad Jaguars team. Phillip Rivers, on the other hand, threw for 300 yards for only the third time this year as they took care of business in the second half against the Tennessee Titans. Packers, hard to figure out this year. It's kind of a tale of which team wants to play that game. Green Bay offense of old was there the first 4 weeks. Just what everyone expected. The Packers, that offense, first 4 weeks scoring points, putting up numbers. Ever since then, they're alternating. They're alternating being a really good team that the Packers should be with that team and pathetically showing up and not playing to their potential. Last 5 games, it's literally every other game. The Colts game plan needs to stay the same. Rely on your defense and hope Phillip Rivers, being the veteran that he is, can control the flow of the game and not make too many mistakes. Colts defense is best in the NFL in total yards allowed. They're 4th in points scored. They're 10th in takeaways. So the defense will do its job as long as Phillip Rivers can do his job, not make turnovers, control the flow, make the passes that he needs to, move the chains methodically. The Colts are in good position. The Colts are a 2.5 point favorite here at home. The over-under is 51. You tend to look at historically good teams like the Packers. Oh, they're an underdog. This is ridiculous. I get why the Colts are favorites here, but I'm still weary with how good the Packers can be with that every other week mentality. They can put up 40 points whenever they want if they decide to show up. The Packers defense has not played great football as of late, so the point total here being 51 is kind of enticing to me. The Colts defense, we just talked about, they're great. They're one of the best in the NFL, but Aaron Rodgers will figure out a way. The Colts are not going to shut out the Packers. They're not going to shut out Aaron Rodgers. But I expect both teams to score points. So 2.5 for the Colts here. It wouldn't surprise me if the Packers won this game. Conversely, it wouldn't shock me if the Packers didn't show up again and the Colts won by 10. So because of that, I'm going to take the over here and hope that Green Bay can put up some points. If one of these teams can get to 28, I think the over hits, and I think that's going to happen. So I'm taking the over 51. It's Sunday night football time as Patrick Mahomes will take his Kansas City Chiefs on the road in a big divisional matchup against the 6-3 Las Vegas Raiders. KC coming off a bye after a close call with Christian McCaffrey and the Carolina Panthers. Las Vegas decimated Denver in the second half to take that game, forced 5 turnovers for the Broncos. These teams met a little over a month ago with the Raiders winning on the road, I think. Yeah, I think they won on the road 40-32. We know KC can move the ball. Their offense is elite whenever they need to, but for this game to go the Chiefs' way, they're going to have to stop Josh Jacobs and the rest of that Raiders running game. They're 29th versus the run. Last time these two teams met, Las Vegas ran for 144 yards. If that happens again, expect another high-scoring game. Las Vegas is 8th in the league in points scored, but will somehow need to try and limit Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Edwards-Helaire. They're 25th against the pass. I think Mahomes is going to have an entirely open secondary here to play with. Numbers-wise, this game has the makings of a giant shootout just based on the first meeting, based on Kansas City not stopping the run, Vegas not stopping the pass. I would much prefer... it's a 7-point favorite for the Chiefs. The over-under is 56.5. I'd much prefer if this line was 7.5, because then I'd feel much more comfortable taking Vegas at home, the plus. A potential 7-point push here is very, very likely, but the Vegas is at home in a divisional game. A must-win game for them to have any chance at holding on or overtaking the Chiefs in the division. They're 2 games back. If they can win this game, they will have the tiebreaker, no problem with 2 wins. They have to win this game. Again, I wish it was 7.5, but it's not. It's 7 points to the Chiefs. I think Vegas will keep this close. I'm taking Vegas plus 7, maybe not to win, but I think they'll cover the points. And the final game of the week, Monday Night Football. Jared Goff, Aaron Donald, and the Los Angeles Rams will travel to Tampa Bay, Florida to take on TB12, Gronk, and the rest of the Buccaneers. The Rams are coming off a great defensive showing, holding my Seahawks to 16 points, holding Russell Wilson to 248, and not allowing Russell in the end zone at all. Huge showing for the Rams defense. Tampa Bay was pissed off, just as we talked about last week. As expected, they took it out on Carolina, putting up 46 points. Tom Brady does not lose after a loss. It just doesn't happen. The Rams defense got its real first test last week, as we just talked about. Last week we talked about them. They have not really played a really high caliber offensive team. Well, they did last week, and they proved to me and probably to a lot of other people that defense is for real. We knew they were good, especially that D-line, but that team and that defense is for real. They're second in yards allowed, second in points, and as much as you can say the Hawks are struggling, they shut down Seattle. Incredibly impressive. Brady was the Brady of old, 28 for 39, 341 yards through the air, and 3 touchdowns. Ronald Jones ran for 192 yards. Yes, he did have the big 98-yarder, so it's a little bit of a stat push, a little bit. Still 192 yards. They took over. They didn't. They were down 14-7 in the first quarter. They came out flat, but after that, completely dominated Carolina the rest of the way. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point favorite, and 47 is the over/under. Both teams are practically top 10, top 5 in most of the defensive categories, so I think this game comes down to the offense. I think Tampa Bay wins this game at home, but I think the defenses are what I'm most excited about. The Rams are 0-6 in their last 6 versus the over. All 6 of their last games have hit the under. And as good as Tampa Bay's offense is, I believe this game stays low. I don't like betting the under. Life is too short to bet the under, but these two defenses are way too good. 24-20 type of game is kind of what I'm looking for. Both these defenses are great. I'm taking the under 47. That is it. That is week 11 of my best bets for the NFL. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you're putting your money on this week. As I always say, your bets should be different from mine. That's what makes betting so fun and so frustrating at the same time. Many options, many ways to win, many ways to lose. Guys, I appreciate you. Let me know in the comments kind of what you're doing this week. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. In the description, my Twitch, my Twitter. Guys, I appreciate you. We will see you week 12 next week. Good luck. Win some money. Peace.